I just wish I could understand my father.
And so let's talk about these teen years. What is that when you started to go inside yourself? Because obviously you haven't spoken to to the world for, 14 years, I think, is your last televised interview. So you went inside, you became a recluse, and that was on purpose. Was it to protect yourself?
I felt that there wasn't anything important for me to say. And those were very sad, sad years for me. And
why so sad? Because on stage we see you performing, you're getting your Grammys. Why so sad?
Oh, there's a lot of sadness about my past life and, adolescence and my father and all of those things. It just made me very, very, very sad.
So he would tease you, make fun of you?
Yes.
Did he ever beat you?
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
And that was difficult to take, getting beaten and going on stage and performing?
Yes.
And why would he beat you?
Because he saw me, he wanted me to, I guess maybe, I don't know if I was his golden child or whatever it was. Some may call it a strict disciplinarian or whatever, but he was very strict, very hard, very stern. And just a look would scare you, and...
Were you scared of him?
Very frightened. There's been times when he'd come to see me and I would get sick.
Really?
I'd start to regurgitate.
As a child or as an adult?
Both.
Both.
He's never heard me say this. I'm sorry, please don't be mad at me.
When he was talking about his father, you could immediately sense the both fear and sadness in his eyes. And off camera, he said some things to me that were off camera, and that I won't be sharing. But that was a difficult relationship for him. No question about that. I was surprised that he was willing to go that far with it. I was surprised that he was willing to say even what he said, and even in saying it, trying to temper it by saying, "Please don't be mad at me, Joseph. Please don't be mad at me, Joseph." So obviously that he was still, carried that fear and pain of it. And you could just, if you're watching it, put it on pause right now and go back and look at his eyes when he starts to talk about his father. His eyes shift, change. Of course, his father, Joe Jackson, has said repeatedly that he never beat him, but I would have to say in that moment, I certainly believed what he was saying. What he was doing was, breaking the facade, the wall that everybody had of, the great perfect family. What he allowed us to see is to penetrate that and to begin to see some of the dysfunction. Coming up, what Michael told me about plastic surgery and the color of his skin. Well, you can see he got a little testy there. That's next. I think in 1993, nobody understood what it was. Nobody knew anything about vitiligo. The controversy was Michael Jackson kept getting whiter and whiter and whiter and whiter, and nobody understood why. But anybody who knows Michael Jackson will tell you that when you are up close to him, he has had absolutely no pigmentation in his skin. So you can see all the way through you are looking at his veins when you look at his hand. When you look at him, you are seeing through to the blue veins, and they're, very, 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 very apparent. And at first, that's a startling thing, Nobody ever talks about that, but it's kind of, it takes you aback at first. So you're like looking at a person who is almost like translucent. It's like looking through skin. It's like looking through skin. The thing that is most discussed about you, I think, is the fact that the color of your skin is obviously different than it was when you were younger.
Yes.
And so it has caused a great deal of speculation and controversy as to what you have done or are doing. Are you bleaching your skin? And is your skin lighter because you don't like being black?
Okay, number one, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, they used to have those products growing up. I used to hear, always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons to...
Okay, number one, this is the situation.
Yes.
I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help, okay? But when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
So it is.
It's a problem for me, okay? I can't control it, okay? But what about all the millions of people? Let's reverse it.
Okay.
What about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller. Around Off the Wall Thriller. Sometime
and what did you think? I mean,
It's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private. But that's the situation here. So please, when people see something like that...
I just want to get this straight.
Yeah.
You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin?
Oh, God, no.
You did not purposely...
We're trying to control it, and using makeup evens it out because it makes blotches on the skin, and I have to even out my skin.
Well, you can see he got a little testy there about the skin issue. This was a very big deal in 1993 to have him explain to us that that is what was happening because, as you can imagine, there was no official explanation when it started to happen that I had heard of. And so the media speculated as it would about what was going on and the tabloids and all of that. And I could see that that was one of the areas that was very sensitive to him, obviously. And, you know, I tried not to stay on that very long. Because the thing about doing an interview, which has happened to me a couple of times, once you tick somebody off, it's hard to get them back. You know, it's hard to get him back. So I'm like, I know I got to get through this. You can't do an interview with Michael Jackson. At the time, that was one of the biggest controversies going with him, is that, Michael, you've all of a sudden become a different color. How much plastic surgery have you had?
Very, very little. You can count them on 2 fingers. I mean, let's say this. If you want to know about those things, all the nosy people in the world,
But once we say it, we don't have to say it anymore.
Read my book, Moonwalker. It's in my book. You know, let's just put it this way. If all the people in Hollywood who have had plastic surgery, if they went on vacation, there wouldn't be a person left in town.
I think you might be right.
I think I am right. I mean, empty.
So did you start having plastic surgery because of those teen years, because of not liking the way you looked?
No, not really.
Not really?
It's no big deal.
Okay. You don't want to tell me what it is? You had your nose done, obviously.
Yeah, but so did a lot of people that I know.
Yeah. And so when you hear all these things about you, and there have been more than we are even...
I've never had my cheekbones done, never had my eyes done, never had all that, my lips done and all this stuff. They just go too far. I mean, it's crazy. But this is something that happens like every day with other people.
Are you pleased now with the way you look?
I'm never pleased with anything. I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
It's part of who I am.
And so when you look in the mirror now and the image that looks back at you, are there days when you say, well, I kind of like this, or I like my hair today, or
I'm never
I think
pleased
I'm
with
pretty
myself.
cute today?
No, I'm pretty